Welcome everyone to the Environment Primer series of Drishti IAS. My name is Pragya. In today's important episode of Environment Primer in our Animal Project series, we are going to discuss yet another important and interesting animal project. The title of our today's discussion is Project Vulture. In this discussion, we are firstly going to study about the vultures. Then we are also going to see the National Action Plan for Vulture Conservation 2020 to 2025. This is known as the Project Vulture. Project Vulture. Then we are also going to analyze the conservation efforts, and lastly, we'll see some of the questions that are important from your prelims perspective. So if I talk about the background of our today's topic, vultures were a common sight in the Indian skies, but sadly we have lost almost 99% of the vulture population. Vulture population. And this has prompted the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change to have an initiative for their conservation, and that led to the announcement of the National Action Plan for Vulture Conservation in the year 2020. And this will go on till the year 2025. So basically this brings us to our important points of discussion of our today's session, that what are vultures, why do they need conservation, why have we lost their population, etc. So let us begin by discussing about vultures. So if I talk about the vultures, in India, 9 vulture species have been identified. So basically there are 23 vulture species. Around the world. And 9 of them are found in India, out of which 5 belong to the genus Gypsis and the remaining 4 are monotypic in nature. So until the 1980s, vultures were very common in India. As I have stated that yes, they were a common sighting in the Indian skies before we lost 99% of their population. So the population of the 3 resident gypsies species, Oriental white-backed vulture, long-billed vulture and slender-billed vulture, in the country was estimated to be 40 million individuals during the time period of 1980 to 1990s. This 99% population lost was finally figured out by the government in the year 2004, and this decline of the vulture population started from the mid-1990s. Moving forward, between the 1990s and 2007, numbers of 3 presently critically endangered species. And where are they critically endangered? Determined as critically endangered on the IUCN Red List of Species. The Oriental white-backed, long-billed and the slender-billed vultures decreased massively, with the 99% of the species having been wiped out. And why did this happen? This happened due to the diclofenac disaster. So what is this diclofenac? It is an anti-inflammatory drug. Anti-inflammatory drug. That is given to the animals for releasing their pain. Okay, so this anti-inflammatory drug diclofenac was given to the cattle, and when these vultures used to feed on these dead bodies of cattle, and due to the administration of diclofenac, the cattle died. Okay, and when the vultures came into the contact of the dead bodies of these cattle, they used to feed on them because, well, vultures are natural scavengers. They feed on the dead bodies. So due to the presence of diclofenac, they suffered renal failure and eventually died. So by this diclofenac disaster, we lost almost 99% of the vulture population. So the number of red-headed vultures, also critically endangered now, declined by 91%, while the Egyptian vultures by 80%. And all of these happened between the mid 1990s to the year 2004 to 2007. Okay, moving forward. Let us examine the vulture population in India. So, IUCN category and the vulture species critically endangered. The vulture species in this category include the oriental white-backed vulture, long-billed vulture and the slender-billed vulture and the red-headed vulture. Then endangered Egyptian vulture and near-threatened Himalayan vulture, cinereous vulture and the bearded vulture. And the least concerned includes the Eurasian griffon. So basically, if you want to know about what are these categories, that is critically endangered, endangered, near threatened and least concerned on the IUCN Red List of Species, I have discussed them in detail when I was discussing the IUCN Red List of Species, and you can watch the video to understand these categories better. Moving forward, let us discuss and analyze the National Action Plan for Vulture Conservation, also known as the Project Vulture. So, the veterinary drug diclofenac has been banned by the governments of India and Nepal in the year 2008. So, when finally the government of India awakened to the decline in the population of the vultures, they banned this drug of diclofenac, but its illegal trade is still going on, and it is the over-the-counter medicine. Over-the-counter medicine. That means you can get this medicine without prescription, over the counter. Okay, so this is used by human beings as well. So meloxicam is being promoted as an effective replacement for vultures and other scavenging birds. To prevent the poisoning of the principal food of vultures, the cattle carcasses with veterinaries NSAIDs, by ensuring that the sale of veterinary NSAIDs is regulated and is dispersed only on prescription, and by the ensuring that the treatment of livestock is done only by qualified doctors for them. Okay, so basically this ensures that yes, we will give those dead bodies to the vultures that are safe for them, that are diclofenac free, and that is why they are experimenting with other drugs so that they can finally conserve the left out vulture population. Moving forward, to establish additional conservation breeding centers. And why do we have to have these breeding centers? Because the vultures are slow breeding birds, slow breeding species. And that is why it is not, at a time it is not possible to increase their population very dynamically, and that is why we have additional breeding centers, because vultures are vulnerable during their childhood. Once they become adult, you can leave them in the wild, they will survive. But once when they are children, they require that special care and attention, and that is why we have these breeding centers to breed them in captivity, free from all the dangers. Okay, along with vulture conservation centers, with samples and information collected from the wild analyzed and stored at these centers. And we also have to have the vulture census. Vulture census. So on the lines of tiger census, this National Action Plan for Vulture Conservation also talks about conducting a vulture census. To implement the Vulture Safe Zone program. So now what is this Vulture Safe Zone program? It is a program that is determined to give those dead bodies to feeding to vultures which are diclofenac free. At 8 different places in the country where there are existing populations of vultures so that we can finally be able to conserve them. Moving forward. To launch conservation plans for the red-headed and Egyptian vultures with breeding programs for both, and to build 4 rescue centers for different geographical areas like Pinjore in the north, Bhopal in the central India, Guwahati in the northeast, and Hyderabad in the southern India. This is central India. Okay. So we are building vulture centers also. We are trying to protect them. We are trying to raise them in captivity and then release them into the wild, so they can be immune to the threats outside, because they are more vulnerable when they are children. Okay, moving forward. Let us analyze the conservation efforts that are being taken by the government of India. So, vulture safe zones, we have discussed that yes, the National Action Plan for Vulture Conservation talks about these vulture safe zones. So the concept of a vulture safe zone or VSZ is unique to the Asian continent, but similar VSZs exist in the Europe and Africa. The goal of developing vulture safety zones is to establish targeted awareness activities within a 150-kilometer radius of vulture colonies, so that no diclofenac or veterinary toxic drugs are found in cattle carcasses, the primary food source for vultures. So, as I have mentioned to you before, the vultures are natural scavengers. They feed on the dead bodies, and diclofenac is responsible for renal failure in vultures that ultimately leads to their death. So, basically, this vulture safe zones will be giving food to the vultures without such drug, namely the diclofenac and other harmful drugs that are harmful for the vultures. Moving forward. The VSZ spans several hundred kilometers, including the Jim Corbett National Park in Uttarakhand, the Dudhwa and Kartarnia Ghat forest reserves in Uttar Pradesh, and the Indo-Nepal border. Nepal has already established VSZs along with the borders with India. So both Indian and the Nepalese government are trying to conserve the existing vulture populations, because most of these species are near threatened or critically endangered on the IUCN Red List of Species. Moving forward to the vulture restaurants. So another important and unique concept known as the vulture restaurant. So the population of the vultures not only declined because of the diclofenac disaster, they also declined due to their habitat loss, due to the lack of food, human activities. So basically, what do we do now? We don't dispose the dead bodies outside. We keep them inside, or we dispose them carefully. So vultures are deprived of their food, and that is why vulture restaurants cropped up. Okay. So vulture restaurants are restaurants where Maharashtra and Punjab forest departments reserve tables exclusively for the unique and rare vultures, so that they can come and feed. They are not deprived of the food. The first vulture restaurant opened in the 2015 at the Hansar Wildlife Sanctuary in the Raigad district. So this is another unique concept that is being evolved to conserve the food for the vultures. Moving forward, let us analyze the vulture breeding centers, as I have informed you and explained to you that yes, these are very important because we are trying to raise them in captivity and then put them into the wild. Okay. So the Central Zoo Authority, or the CZA, and the Bombay Natural History Society, or the BNHS, also established the Vulture Conservation Breeding Program. A vulture care center was set up at Pinjore, Haryana in 2001 to study the cause of deaths of vultures in India. And the Jatayu Conservation Breeding Center in Pinjore is the world's largest facility within the state's Bir Shikargarh Wildlife Sanctuary for the breeding and conservation of Indian vulture species. So all of these efforts are being made by various state governments as well. For example, Tamil Nadu has also come up with a project for the conservation of the vultures. So vultures breeding centers are very important if we want to save the vultures from initial dangers during their childhood. they are more vulnerable during their childhood. Okay, so what are we doing? We are breeding them in captivity. We are trying to ensure that yes, they are not threatened by any kind of dangers outside, and then we are releasing them into the wild for their natural processes to take place. And recently also we have released 8 critically endangered species. 8 critically endangered species of vultures into the wild after successfully breeding them in captivity. Moving forward to an international program known as the SAVE, that is Saving Asia's Vultures from Extinction. So the consortium of like-minded regional and international organizations created to oversee and coordinate conservation campaigning and fundraising activities to help the plight of South Asia's vulture, and this is the SAVE program, and it is an international program. So what are its objectives? Its objective is to save 3 critically important species from extinction through a single program. Okay, and the partners include Bombay Natural History Society, Bird Conservation Nepal, RSPB UK, National Trust for Nature Conservation Nepal, International Centre for Birds of Prey UK, and the Zoological Society of London. So all of these are partners of the SAVE program. With this, we come to a conclusion of our today's discussion. We have discussed what about the vultures. We have also understood that the diclofenac disaster was responsible for 99% of the population decline of the vultures. We have also seen the important objectives and the conservation efforts that the government is trying to do by the National Action Plan for the vulture conservation that will be running from the year 2020 to 2025. Okay, and we have understood all of these important aspects about the project vultures and vultures. Now let us discuss the previous practice questions which I asked you in the previous session, as I had said that I will be revealing the correct answer. So the question was, the M stripes, the term M stripes is sometimes seen in the news in the context of option A, captive breeding of wild fauna, option B, maintenance of tiger reserves, option C, indigenous satellite navigation system, and option D, security of national highways. So your correct answer will be option B, maintenance of tiger reserves. Now let us discuss some of the important questions from our today's session. So the question is, according to IUCN, which of the following vulture species are critically endangered? Option 1 is white-backed vulture. Option 2, Indian griffon vulture. Option 3, bearded vultures. Select the correct answer using the code given below. Option A, 1 only. Option B, 1 and 2 only. Option C, 2 and 3 only. And option D is 1, 2 and 3. So your correct answer will be option A, 1 only. Moving forward to the next question. So which of the followings are detrivores? And this is a PYQ that has been asked in the year 2021. Number 1, earthworms. Number 2, jellyfish. Number 3, millipedes. Number 4, seahorses. And number 5, woodlice. Select the correct answer using the codes given below. Option A, 1, 2 and 4 only. Option B, 2, 3 and 5 only. Option 3, 1, 3 and 5 only. Option D, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, all of the above. So kindly let me know the answer in the comment box below. I will reveal the correct answer in the next session. I hope this session was insightful for you. If you have any feedback regarding this session, kindly drop it in the comment box below. If you find that today's discussion helpful, kindly like the video and subscribe to our channel for more such interesting updates. Thank you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.